Hello and welcome to the Wednesday show presented by This is Ibrox. As always, I'm joined by two fantastic guests. Ross, how are you doing today?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm buzzing to be on and to be able to talk about another Rangers signing again because it's been a while in it. So I know he's not officially in the door, but it looks like he'll be here tomorrow. So yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, it's always good when we've actually got a signing to talk about. And Ian, how's yourself today as well?
Yeah, very good, mate. As we say, got a new signing, got the proper football back, so buzzing to be here.
There we go. That is less than a minute, and I don't know if you meant it or not, but that's already one pun for proper there. We'll strike that off against your name. Honestly, it's been so difficult doing my agenda, trying to avoid proper references, but that's fine. Look, as always, there's loads to talk about today. We'll begin with, I think it's only fair we discuss Connor Goldson departing, given he was at the club for 6 years. It's that old phrase, he was a magnificent servant, and we'll talk about his move to Reese. It looks like Rangers remarkably already have the replacement lined up with FC Twente captain Robin Pröpper, depending on how Ross is going to say it, but you can let us know in the comments how we're actually pronouncing this guy's name. It looks like he's going to be announced in the next few days. Get the guy's thoughts in the state of the defence in particular, given the sort of worries over pre-season. Even with the new addition, where the Rangers need to strengthen still. There's a couple of other transfer rumours I'd like to talk about. We'll maybe come on to the Rangers chairman John Bennett's interview that was released on Monday, and of course the opening league game kicks off at 12:30 at Tynecastle. We'll get the guys' thoughts and an attempted lineup at that. But it was announced officially yesterday morning that Connor Goldson had left Rangers to join Aris Limassol in Cyprus, a name that we all know from last year. I don't think anybody would know that name unless we'd played them last year. I'm not gonna read out his full message in the socials, but I'll shorten it down a wee bit here. So the time has come. It's my time to get off the train, the ride that we've been on together for the past 6 years. It's really hard to write, but I think it's the right time to write it. What a 6 years it's been. What a pleasure it's been to be part of this amazing football club. We went through many highs and lows together, but through the journey, I can promise you that I gave this club everything. Tried to lead by example every single day I walked through that building and strive to make the football club a better than when I signed. It wasn't perfect and neither was I, but I can honestly look myself in the mirror and say I gave it my all and nobody cared more. All I wanted to be judged for was what I did in the pitch and nothing else. Rangers Football Club will have a place in my heart. I will always follow. I will always cheer because you have been part of the special club. I don't think it ever leaves you. Thank you and all the best for the future, Connor Goldson. Ross, we'll start with you. Connor Goldson was at the centre of our defence for virtually 6 years, hardly missed a game. We know that he demanded to play every game he could. What's your thoughts on Connor Goldson's time at the club?
Yeah, I think I spoke about this the other night when I was on. I'll look back fondly on Connor Goldson. I think when he came in, I don't think a lot of people knew about him. It was one of those signings that Gerrard had picked out, he'd plucked out of kind of nowhere, and we all know the health scare that Connor Goldson had. So to be able to actually come back and play professional football at the level he's done for the last 6 years has been remarkable, really. And he's been really open about that and spoken about it. So deserves a lot of credit for that. I think he gave Rangers a lot. I think he's the quickest player to get 300 appearances, I believe, or is it the defender to get 300 appearances? I'm not sure. Someone might be able to correct me on that one. So again, it shows you his reliability for us, his availability, which is something I think we can all say is as a support over the last few years, that availability has been something we've really struggled with a lot of our key players, but Connor Goldson was always available. And he was solid, in the first 3, 4, 5 years he was here. Immense in that 55 season. That defence was built around him. I know Philippe Hollander came in and done really well that season as well, but Connor Goldson was the rock, and we wouldn't have performed at the level we had without him. And again, that Europa League run, he was immense again. And he done really well against some top opposition in Europa League that season, and he really nullified a lot of attacking players that probably thought we'd get the better of him. So I will look back fondly on Connor Goldson. I'm a bit sad. I think it is the right time to move on. I don't disagree with anyone on that. I think it is the right time for the club to, say goodbye to Connor Goldson. But I'm a bit sad how it's all played out. I would have liked him to have maybe a more successful season last year. But I suppose that's me. I need to be realistic, and it's football, and it never really works out that way, does it? You never really get that happy ending you're always looking for. So, yeah, a little bit of sadness in there. ultimately, I think I'll look back on Connor Goldson and think he was a fantastic servant for us, and he stood up in big moments. He didn't win as many trophies as he should have. That's clear for a lot of the players in that squad. But I think Connor Goldson gave it his all. I think you can see that by his message yesterday. It's a really classy message. And I think it meant a lot for him to play for Rangers. So I wish him all the best. And I hope to come back at Ibrox someday, in the stands supporting the team, because like you said, it doesn't leave you.
Yeah, he's definitely one of these guys that I can see in like 10, 15 years' time just making a random appearance in the away end at Motherwell or something like that, being in with the supporters. I think that's sort of the feeling that Connor Goldson has for the club. But I mean, Ian, it's something Ross touched on there that I think most of us forget as supporters, is the adversity that he has had to come through, given his heart condition that he was very open about. I mean, he has had a more challenging, difficult journey to the top than most. And okay, he had somewhat success at Rangers for 6 years, but what did you think of Connor Goldson's 6 years at Rangers, and you, any thoughts and memories in particular of him?
Yeah, just to echo what Ross said, he was an incredible servant, an incredible signing, really, when you consider it wasn't a massive outlay at the time, like £3 million for that volume of appearances, that kind of consistency. And I put a tweet out the other day just saying, like, you put your Rangers.
Oh, he's thought so much good stuff about Connor Goldson. He can barely speak anymore about him. He's that emotional as Ian. But listen, when Ian's back, we'll get him back.
We'll ask him about Goldson again.
Here we go. It's the comment here. Wickerman 420 says, please put that Stanley Cup away. You're absolutely kidding yourself on if you think that's a real Stanley Cup there, Wickerman. It's good for my water. But listen, Ian, we sort of caught a bit of that there. You were saying there that he was a good servant for the club.
Yeah, just so emotional, disconnected. Sorry about that. It was more so reliable, so consistent, always a kind of at least a 7 out of 10 kind of player. I think Ross touched on this maybe in the group chat the other day. You see how much of an effect he had in the squad in general, with all the goodbye posts and people sharing it and commenting back kind of thing. So it is a big loss to the club off the pitch, probably as much as it is on the pitch, because on paper he's still probably our best defender. I'd put him there anyway, to be honest. And obviously he touched on his heart issues. He done that interview as well. It's at the end of last season when he was talking about his kids. Also had a couple of issues with their heart, maybe the same kind of thing. So he's been dealing with all that while trying to, put on the shirt and play for the badge kind of thing. So no, nothing but respect for me for him. But it is the right time to move him on. I've seen most people kind of agreeing with that. Being respectful was good for us. We were good for him as well. And it is the right time to move on. And hopefully we've got his replacement in the door already.
Yeah, there's a few comments coming in here before I get your thoughts on the actual deal to sell Connor Goldson himself. Ian, Gaza Legend here says Goldson served as well, but he remains one of the serial losers. CGM55 says Goldson's in the past. They only bloody left yesterday. Already forgotten. He was a good player for us, but the time is up. RFC72 says Goldson never had a steady partner, which I think is fair enough. As you alluded to, Ross, that's the best our defence has looked in years, when he had a fit Hollander up alongside him. And I don't think it was a coincidence that was how good the defence were there, but which is a nightmare for a centre-half. And Paul McGorrigle here says Goldson won everything, just not enough titles, but thanks and goodbye. And I think that kind of sums it up from the Rangers fans' perspective. Ian, what do you actually make of the deal to sell Connor Goldson to Aris Limassol for a reported 1.5 million? Are you happy with this deal?
I think overall, yeah, because there was some talk about being like $500,000 at one point, which I thought was just far too low. But the thing you need to consider here is that it's the wages probably more than the actual transfer fee. I mean, I don't know exact figures here, but he's probably the highest earner at the club, if not second to Tav. So he's going to be on a fair amount. You're talking millions of pounds saved over the next couple of years in terms of those wages, and then we can reinvest that. So I'd have liked a little bit more than 1.5. I think he's probably good enough to have commanded a little bit more, but as long as all the wages are gone, it's a decent amount to knock back into new signings. So I think overall we've come out quite well with this one. Yeah,
that's it. RSC72 here says, can't be mad, it gets 37k off the books. And I totally agree with you on that one there. It's so it's just, for me, this is a move that we haven't been making in the past. I mean, you look at your not last season, but the season before, when there was 5 players that left when they ran down their contracts. We've had a very similar year here where we've got nothing for a player like John Lundstrom. I think striking, not while the iron's hot, but while it's mildly warm and it's not completely out yet, I think that's where we should be sort of recouping some of these transfer fees. But as you said, the main thing, and people are saying in the comments, is actually getting them off the wage book. But Ross, I'll come to you here now on the next point already, but Rangers already look to have got Connor Goldson's replacement within about, I don't know, what was that, 24 hours? I think you and I discussed, we've given the listeners a wee bit behind the scenes here, but discussed the pod title, what we're going to do, how we're going to structure it all. I mean, I had to change it about 3 times as the information was coming out and evolving, but it looks like we've signed Robin Pröpper from FC Twente, who is their captain, featured over 40 times for the club last season. It's not got a bad injury record, which is a terrible benchmark to start when you're signing players. But what are your overall thoughts on signing a player of Robin Pröpper's calibre?
Well, I think on the deal itself, I think you spoke about there that, it's only been 24 hours since Connor Goldson departed. That's exactly the way you want the club to operate, isn't it? You want these things lined up. So Rangers would have probably known for the last 3 or 4 days that Connor Goldson was going to make the move. So the fact they've been able to put things in motion pretty quickly and wrap this deal up for Robin Pröpper, likely they've been speaking for the majority of the summer, but they've obviously got Goldson off the books now. It's like, right now, it's time to bring you in. So I like that. Been really proactive, I think. So Rangers deserve some credit there. As with the player himself, again, I really like this because I think this is exactly the type of profile centre-back we need at the moment. I think we do need a little bit of experience in there. I think there's an argument to say that, Suter and Balogun and Davis are experienced centre-backs, but are they good enough? I'm not sure. So I think this guy's coming in with a bit of a pedigree, played really, really well at FC Twente, captain, I think took them to 3rd last season, which is obviously a remarkable season for FC Twente. So I like this. I think this is good. I personally think we maybe need another one in there, but I don't think it's going to be the priority now going forward for the recruitment team. They've probably looked at that and felt, okay, Connor Goldson's left and we're bringing in someone else with experience, so it ticks the box. Mm-hmm. But all round, I think it's a good signing for us. Again, you caveat with this, you got to let the player come in, you got to give them time, you got to see how they respond to the environment, and that's fair with every player. But yeah, I like this. I think this is exactly what I want the club to do in this situation. I think we need experience all across the park. We've now got that at centre back. I think we now need to see that in other areas.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I agree with you there. I don't think unless another centre half goes out that we'll be bringing another one in anytime soon, but it'll be fascinating to see. Ian, RSC72 here says, he's a good player, but it's a weird one. Signing another soon-to-be 31-year-old for a rumoured 3 million-ish. I've not heard any figures with this, but that wouldn't surprise me. I've seen some of the scouting websites and stuff like that. The 3 million is around what his rumoured transfer value is. But what do you make of this signing? Do you have concerns that he is 30, soon to be 31 years old?
It's not the ideal one for me, age-wise. I did kind of tweet that out this morning and got a barrage of people just saying David Weir back to me over and over again. So I get it, that it can be successful. That's very possible what's going to happen here. But you're talking about a guy who's never played outside Holland before. Yes, he's had a good couple of years, but none of us had heard of him yesterday kind of thing. So it's a bit out of the blue, but I'm just a bit worried paying that kind of money for a guy with no resale. And I totally understand everyone is different and you need players with experience. These guys are leaders. Our squad probably badly needs that after Goldson leaving. So I can see the positives 100% here, but it's just a bit of a worry for me if, say, he does flop, and there's a lot less pressure on a centre-back than like a striker kind of thing flopping, but say he doesn't hit the ground running, say he does get dropped at one point, we're then stuck with a guy probably going to get a 3 or 4 year contract, I imagine, for him to make this move. Probably going to be fine. Probably just a bit of scar tissue from previous signings and from last summer going on here, but just a little bit of concern in that sense. But I mean, any video I've seen of him, any scouting report kind of thing, you're looking at, he does tick every box that we want kind of thing. Like, I can't remember having a defender of like 6'3", seems to have a little bit of pace about him, decent on both sides, and it's probably exactly what a guy like Suter or Davies needs. Not quite sure which one he's going to be partnering, but it seems to complement that kind of profile pretty well. So overall, happy with it, like it, can see the thinking, just a little bit concerned if it is like £3 million, given how tight our finances seem to always be. So should be fine. And like I say, it's probably just the fact that last summer happened and we're stuck with one or two players that's just kind of niggling away at me a little bit.
Yeah, no, listen, I see where you're coming from there in terms of the money paid out for a centre half, but the way I always see these things is that there's two types of signings that you should always be looking for, especially in books that I've read about football. Not that I'm claiming to be some sort of football manager aficionado or anything like that, but there's players for the here and now and players for the future, and he seems very much like we need this guy to go straight into the team.
Yep.
And I think that was an excellent point you made there about somebody vocal, because again, I'm sure I've watched if not the exact same training videos or YouTube packages of him, playing, and you see him, he's pointing, he's shouting, he looks like he loves a bit of a wind up, which I'm all here for as well. And I think something that Rangers, I seem to say this every single season that we're on, I think we lack somebody that just winds opposition up. But Ross, there's a couple of comments coming in here. CGM says, I love it when people are as blunt as this. Have we shafted Twente? We sold them Lammers and we are now signing their captain. And Steve G says, Pröpper will be a better option than Dave is a solid partner for Suter, but he's short-term replacement, maybe a season or two at most for him. Do you think Rangers have got a good deal out of this in terms of Sam Lammers going that way and we've effectively poached their captain from them?
I mean, absolutely. If you're going to throw Sam Lammers in here, that we're essentially getting the centre back for no expense, then it's hard to say that it's not a good deal. So let's throw Lammers in there and say it's a great deal we've been able to do there. I can understand a lot of Ian's points there, and I think they're fair. And I think when you do sign players of this age, there is always a little bit of concern because, once they're at that age, they've played a lot of football. And we've actually seen with Goldson in the last couple of years, he got that bad thigh injury and he's never come back. Like, we've never seen the Connor Goldson that we've seen again. So I understand the concern here. I think this one just comes down to mainly the experience side here. I think this comes down to, I always suspected this summer we would see Rangers at least linked with players that Clement was aware of, and maybe not necessarily worked with, but was aware of. Obviously, we brought in the new assistant manager. Is it Uldervik? I always get his name wrong, so I apologise. That might be it. I think he's aware. I think he is aware of the player. I actually might have read that he might have worked with him in the past. So again, this comes down to maybe they're sitting down with Niels Koppen, again, a league that he's well aware of, and thinking, right, okay, these are the type of experienced players we've worked with or we're aware of. Do they fit what we're trying to do right now? And maybe it just comes down to that. The other side of it is we have signed quite a lot of lower age profiles this summer, so maybe we're just at the stage where it's those type of players have to come in. But all around, I can see what Ian's saying there. I think really for me, it's just you're losing someone like Connor Goldson, who in that squad has been looked upon as being a leader for as long as he's been here. Even when he was probably sitting on the bench last season towards the end, the squad will still see Connor Goldson as a leader. So you're taking him out. Now, James Tavernier actually might come out as well. You probably need others to come in with a bit of experience to grab hold of that dressing room. Clearly, he's been able to do that at his current club. So I think that's maybe just what this one comes down to. Sometimes as well, the way I look at this is it does seem like a bit of a swap, right? You're letting Connor Goldson go for 1.5 million, his wages off the book, and then you're bringing someone in for 2-3 million. But I think sometimes when it comes to squad building in football, you just need a freshness sometimes. And I think that's what we've seen over the last couple of years with Rangers. We've not been willing to sell players at the right time to just bring a freshness so there isn't a staleness in that squad. And I think that's why where we are. And I think that's why so many players have, came towards points in their career with Rangers and they've not really progressed. Like I always think of like a Glenn Kamara, for example, the ability he had, but he just stalled at Rangers. We didn't sell him quick enough. It's the same Alfredo Morelos, stalled. So I wonder sometimes you just need a wee bit of freshness. So it does feel like a bit of a straight swap, but you're getting a fresh leader in there that might go might go about things a wee bit differently than Connor Goldson did, and maybe finds an extra 5-10% in that team. So I think it's a positive one all round. I like I said again, I think we need to do more. Like, this can't be the end, obviously, in experienced players. I think we need a couple in there, especially in central midfield. I think we need an experienced player in there. But I'm happy to see this the first one, and I think this will continue throughout the window, that we see Rangers, Clermont, whatever, linked with players that are aware of, because I think if I was a manager, that's probably exactly what I would do in that scenario. If you're looking for experience, you would probably look for people you're aware of and you know what you're going to get. So I think all around, we probably just got to trust the manager here that he's picked a good one, and Pröpper will come in and make an impact immediately.
Yeah, that's it. The Bluebells Are Blue says, I think it's a great signing. 30, not sold for a centre-back, which is fair enough. Can play left centre-back, right centre-back. Excellent nair, leader, robust, and can play a bit. Thank you very much, Twente. Because that was the other thing that I noticed in terms of watching those sort of YouTube compilation videos, was he's got a really, really good pass out from the back. I will always go back to that Connor Goldson pass for Joe Aribo against Hearts at Tynecastle a couple of years ago, and it's something that we don't use enough. I love it when Rangers attack in several different ways. But just before we move off from the Pröpper chat, Iain, sort of one last question for you. How, and you've maybe touched on it a wee bit already, but how important is it that he was a captain at his club? Because I was running through the squad list today, and we have got actually quite a few players in the squad that were captains before they came and moved to us. I'm looking at guys like John Souttar, obviously captain at Hearts. Well, Tavernier, he's still at the club, so I'll include him as the captain. Tom Lawrence was the captain at Derby. Mohamed Diomande was the captain at Northland, and Liam Kelly had the captain's armband at Motherwell. So that's quite a few in the squad. Is that something that you think that the management team, the recruitment team are targeting, that they are looking for people who have been leaders at their previous clubs?
Yeah, it's got to be. I think Clermont mentioned it a few times last season. There was like this leadership group at the club, and that was like Jack, Lundstrom, Tav, Goldson, Butland. 2 or 3 of them are away this summer, so they need replaced. It's only natural. Like, we obviously get to see the games at the weekends and midweek and kind of judge everything from there, but these guys spend the full week together. They spend every morning together, every afternoon together. There's going to be a lot of lows that we don't see, a lot of tough times, a lot of players out injuries that just need a little arm around the shoulder, that kind of stuff. These are the guys that are going to do that. I thought it was quite fitting. Danilo was putting up a couple of posts about Goldson, and really on paper they didn't play together an awful lot, like a handful of times that they started together, but clearly there was a strong bond there. So you've got to imagine when Danilo was out injured, Goldson was one of the guys coming there, helping him out, keeping him involved kind of thing. And that's exactly what we seem to have replaced here. Another side note I forgot to say before is you always need to look at what another team's fans think. And it seems, I mean, I don't speak Dutch, but Google Translate's helped me a lot today. But it looks like all the Twente fans are pretty gutted that he's leaving. So it says a lot. I mean, if you looked at any Rangers player leaving this summer, you're going to find quite a lot of negative comments, regardless who it is. Whereas Pröpper seems to have had a really good relationship with them as well, which I think goes a long way. Like you mentioned, that he's kind of a guy that winds up the refs, gets involved, gets the fans up. We live on that kind of stuff. That's perfect for Ibrox. So I think it would be good for the club, good for the squad to bring in a guy or a few guys, as you mentioned there, that have that leadership quality. It can all be a positive, really.
Yeah, a couple of comments coming in here from the viewers here. Paul says that captains just don't do it on the pitch, it's off the field as well, which you were alluding to there with Connor Goldson and stuff like that. Steve G here says Clermont needed deputies. The ones he inherited were completely infected with a loser mentality, which is, I think, is a fair way of putting that. And the last one, CGM here, sort of providing the opposing view. He says, or is it too many cooks? Well, we'll find out. But I think the more people you've got with leadership qualities in any walk of life, I think that'll always stand you in good stead. And that's the more people that have been captains at clubs for me, the better, because I like it when people are talking. I don't think there's enough of that at times. I mean, that's one thing, especially from that 55 season. The memory in my head is just hearing Connor Goldson moaning at everybody to do stuff 24/7 for the full game, and I think we have lacked that. I think Diomande's tried to do a bit of that in some of the pre-season stuff, but yeah, I'm all for a big, huge Dutch centre half moaning at the rest of the team when something doesn't go well. The next point I'd like to come on to here, and I'll come to you, Ross, it is about the defence in particular, seeing as we've been talking about defenders for the whole podcast. I'll read out the sort of Rangers defence, the first team players that we have: Sterling, Tav, Suter, Davies, Nsiala, Balogun, Hefty, Ridvan, King and Fraser. Is that enough for the new season?
Look, I think I said earlier, I think we'll prioritise other areas at this point, so it might be something we do later on in the window. I personally don't think it's enough. And I think you could probably look at every single area of the defence, actually, and pick holes at it, couldn't you? I mean, you look at the right side, you know, James Tavernier is linked with a move, and he will be until the end of the window. Whether that goes through, I'm not sure at this point. And Dujon Sterling, I think we all seen the qualities last season, but cannot stay fit. That's a problem, right? And I think that's something we're going to have to admit at this point. He picks up injuries, niggling injuries quite a lot. And I think I said earlier, I think I said a couple of days to you, Kale, that probably Tavernier and Sterling, if Tav was to stay, sharing that right back role this season would probably help both players, because I think there's not a load on them. And I think you'd maybe see better performance out of them. That's the right side. The left side, Jeffy, through pre-season, I think there's definitely a player in there attacking-wise. I think positionally, defensively, he's all over the place, right? So that, I think, will come with time and experience. And I wasn't expecting Jeffy to be the finished article. I always felt that Ridvan would be first choice this season. And yeah, then you've got to look at Ridvan as well. Injury issues. So we can't put the load on him asking him to play twice a week. We are going to need Jeffy to stand in at certain points. So what games do you maybe trust him to stand in? And then you look at the centre-back. Of course, we've brought in Robin Pröpper now. I would imagine he will be first choice based on the fee we're spending, the experience he brings. Who partners him? I'm not sure. I think it will probably be John Suter. I think he'll move John Suter back to the left again, because we've seen that all the last season. But then you've got like a Ben Davis in the background too. I think I've said this several times in the podcast. I don't think he's as bad as a lot of the support think, but whether he's good enough to play every single week for Rangers, I doubt. Leon Balogun should really be at this stage a fifth choice centre back for me. He shouldn't really be part of that 4 rotation. And then a likes of, Clinton Nsiala and Leon King. I don't think either of them are ready yet, based on what I've seen from both players. Again, they can develop, and Nsiala will get plenty of opportunities this season, I'm sure. But I think there is a bit of a worry there for me. I don't think we look too strong defensively, and I think you've seen that with the preseason performances. I think it was 10 goals conceded in preseason in the official games anyway. 4 goals conceded against Union Berlin, and I think a lot of those goals, a lot of the support looked at it and felt, wow, we are really open here. So I think Tynecastle and Hearts this weekend is going to be a very difficult game for us, because they'll be well aware of the pressure on Rangers at this moment in time. The defence not really being a lot of confidence, and I think they will put a lot of pressure on us. Like, I can see them being really aggressive, shelling balls into the box and hoping for something to come off. So there is a worry there. And I said at the beginning of this answer, I would probably go and get another centre back if we have the budget. Whether we have that, I'm not sure. But I can certainly see a lot of the support being worried about it. I'm in the same situation. I think we're going to have to just prioritise other areas first and maybe come back to it later in the window.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. It's I've not been convinced myself by the defence in pre-season so far, and on paper as well. But Ian, what's your thoughts on it here? And I'm going to ask you a question that's come in from another Ian that's listening there. So hello, Ian. Who partners Pröpper? Would you rather Ben Davies or Suter there?
I would go Suter personally. I know he has his sort of brain farts, for want of a better word. He gets caught into the ball quite a lot, but he'd be my choice there. I still like Suter. I think he's good on the ball. He's a decent defender from a defensive point of view as well, so I don't have much concern about Suter, and he will get better, I think, especially with a leader type beside him. I'm sort of going to steal a comment that CGM just put in a minute ago, that I don't think the defence is all to blame for how open we've been in pre-season. Yep. I think the midfield is a massive issue. Don't get me wrong, I really like Diomande and Barron together. I can see that working. It's got everything you kind of want in a 2. But I'm sort of starting to bang on about it kind of thing. I'd still rather someone behind those 2 that then just kind of gave a bit more protection, especially we're saying we're not too trusting of either centre-back combination we're going to go for. Both wing-backs, all 4 wing-backs are a bit susceptible to attacks as well. So I just think if that midfield's a bit more solid, it takes a bit of the pressure off the defence. Just my own personal thinking, what I'm watching kind of thing so far. Also, I don't think Nsiala is the project backup that most people seem to. I don't think he comes here unless he's told he's getting first team football. Fair enough, he's not going to start every week kind of thing, but I see a rotation where it's between maybe him and Suter as much as it is Davies and Suter. And for me, he should get game time. I don't think he's going to come here and just sit on the bench or play with the B team. He's going to be incredibly raw, and we're going to need to be incredibly patient with him, which as a fan base, we're not going to be. So that will end one way. But the guy's let me to play. Like Leon King, 2-3 years ago, all we heard about was how great he was and the potential and buzzing that we'd fought off like Man United and Arsenal at the time for him, or Newcastle, I think it was. And he sort of just fell away completely. Fair enough, he could now stay as this backup or third choice right back, but he's nowhere near the player that I think most of us thought he was going to be at this point, and it's because he's not played any football. So if we brought a guy in from AC Milan and just plan to have him around the squad and let him play the odd cup game here and there, like I say, I don't think he comes if that's the agreement. I think he's here to take part and be involved a lot more than most people seem to think.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. There's actually a few shouts here. Kenneth Elliott here says Pröpper and Nsiala at the back, which I'll be stunned if we see that. But given what Clement has said, but you never know. The guy's got experience. I know he didn't play any first team games for AC Milan, but you've got to have a bit about you, even to make the bench for AC Milan. But let me just bring some of the comments up here about the defence. William 01 says Balogun is better than Davies and Suter. RFC 72 says we're not winning anything with a current defence. It's a mile off where it needs to be. Blue Bills or Blue says ideally we need an centre back or a right back. Otherwise, I'm comfortable. Gordon Duffy here says my worry is Hefty. He will need time. Yilmaz will show him how it's done. Ben Seidel says still unconvinced with the defence. So yeah, I think it's safe to say the jury is out on that one. Ian, I'll stick with you. A couple of transfer rumours I wanted to get into here. One I actually wasn't planning on bringing up because for what it's worth, I'm just not convinced we're linked here. But there's been so many questions about it. I love how everybody's calling Hannibal Mejbri the Man United boy at the minute. So Terry Monroe here says, what's the latest with the Man United boy? We know that the guy, there's now links to the other side of the city rather than getting him on loan, coming in as a permanent transfer. I know it's all just rumours and speculation at this point, but what do you make of the Man United boy? Would he be a good addition to the Rangers squad?
It's hard to say. He's a player that I've always kind of known of. Just the amount of stupid football I watch. He watched the championship game and he had a good season at Birmingham. Seemed pretty reliable and played a lot of football then. That was like 2 years ago now. Obviously went to Seville and didn't quite pan out, I guess, the way he'd have wanted it to. But you don't come through the Man United academy. You don't play for Man United a decent bit as he has without having immense ability. So we know the ability's there. I think it's always just been a mentality thing for him. That would be my worry bringing him in, whether he is able to come in and not feature every game. Maybe if he's not a starter, is he going to just chuck it kind of thing? We saw a lot of players come from the Premiership and do that. But I was quite excited when I seen the rumours to him. I think he would balance the midfield a good bit. Whether he plays instead of Barron, I'm not really too sure about, but I'm all for bringing in another centre midfielder if it means we've got that sort of three centre mids rather than an attacking midfielder. Just like I said before, it might help the defence a little bit. Not quite sure how to make up with that and who would be sitting a little bit more and stuff like that, but he's a quality player. I think he would make us better as a team. And the rumours to Celtic you see today, I would guess that's probably just his agent maybe putting a bit of a fear factor into Rangers that we might lose him to speed something up. I mean, I think at this point, we're very much a case of player out to get player in. And I think the Goldson and Pröpper situation is kind of proof of that. We need to wait till someone leaves to bring in someone else. So maybe in the background, we're trying to get rid of a Dowell, for a random example. If Dowell goes, that's when Hannibal comes in. And we're just waiting for that sort of jigsaw to start moving kind of thing. But I'd like him to come in. I know he's only got a year left as United deal, so even though it's probably going to be a loan, you'd expect there's going to be maybe a permanent possibility to that as well. and he's what, 22, I want to say. He's not exactly old, so he's going to get better with more first team football. So at this point, I'd be a little disappointed if it didn't come through, but it's one of those ones that's it's taken a bit of time now. It's sort of the same idea as that Romani deal. It was happening, then no one was really sure. It just kind of died a death. This one seems to be sort of following that same trail, which is a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, that's it. A couple of comments here. Steve G says, don't mind if we missed out on him. Don't think he's what we need in the middle. Need more experience. Bluebells are blue. Says he has an atrocious disciplinary record. Stank out the place at Sevilla. Has fallen out with 2 managers and he's only had 4. No thank you. And Luke Gibson 97 here says the Tunisian Alec Lowry. Which makes me not entirely convinced on that transfer, given how Alex Lowry's been the past couple of years. I was going to ask about the Morgan Whittaker rumour, because it keeps rearing its head and going away and rearing its head again, Ross. But I'll chuck out this one here, because there's some journalists that are saying it's a done deal. He's in talks with the club. There's other journalists that are saying nah. Nothing in this. It is a name of a player that if you told me he was 40-year-old, I would entirely believe you. And it's Marco van Ginkel, a once of Chelsea fame. The only thing I can really remember about him is he couldn't get a game because he was injured all the time. And he, but yeah, what do you think of this potential link of Marco van Ginkel being linked with Rangers? There's certainly a profile of player that we're being linked with at the minute, isn't there?
Yeah. I think it's one of those ones again where probably our recruitment team are aware of the player, Clement's aware of the player, and he's being linked. I'm not completely convinced this one will go through, I'll be honest with you. I was surprised earlier when I started reading up about him and things, because I was the same as you. I just remember him from years back signing for Chelsea, never playing, and just constantly going out on loan. Right, it was one of those signings for Chelsea. They used to do that all the time, didn't they? And then I remember him having a really bad injury record. Now, he played 30 games, I think, last year in the Eredivisie. Obviously, his contract's expired and he's left, so he's a free agent. The only thing about this one is I reckon if he was a serious target and he is a free agent, he would have been in early in the window, I think. Unless he's just had a lot of options and he wanted to take his time. But again, you're risking then missing out on a pre-season. You could have one, you could start the season. So yeah, I'm not convinced by this one. Again, is it experience in midfield? Yeah. I don't really think it'd be the profile I would kind of be targeting, because he looks like he's played a wee bit further forward the last couple of years. So do we really need that? I'm not sure. But again, we are selling we hope to sell Yanis Hadji and Todd Cantwell. So maybe we do need players in that area. And I think that's why Hannibal's been linked as well, because I don't see him as being one of the two. I think he would play further forward. So I can understand it. It doesn't really excite me. I kind of sit it next to like this John Fleck rumour that's flying around, or he's training with a club, right? So obviously everyone's debating whether we're going to sign him. It's very much the same for me. I'm not really a big fan of this. I would rather we target someone else. So yeah, don't think this one will go through, Kale. I think this one might be a bit of a lazy link. Look, I might be wrong. Maybe here in 2 days time and he's holding the shirt. But yeah, it's not really one that would excite me. I'd like to think there's better value out there for us. And some of the players that have been linked in the window, I think, are better value. So, I would rather we moved on for this one and, targeted the experience in someone else.
That's it. Just give it a couple of weeks before Ross is rocking up to the pod with his third shot with Van Ginkel on the back of it. So we'll wait to see then. But yeah, no, for what it's worth, I agree with you. I think if we were, given that he's not attached to a club, as you sort of said earlier on, that his injury record in the past few years is nowhere near as bad as what I thought it was. He's obviously playing at a decent level. That's certainly the market we seem to be shopping around in the Eredivisie, especially over the last couple of seasons. I mean, that might be a question for another pod, is if Rangers have had success in recent years shopping in the Eredivisie. But we'll wait and see if anything comes to from that rumour. But like you, I will be surprised if there is anything. Listen, the second last point I'd like to talk about, the chairman, John Bennett, dropped a very long overdue interview on Monday evening with regards to a few things. He sort of talked about the delay in the steel. talking about 3 ships, 1 ship's here, 2 ships aren't here. Ross, I'll stick with you on this. What did you make of that part of the interview, talking about the steel and why there's been such a delay? Couple of questions here. Why did it take so long to say that, given that it seemed quite a simple thing to say? And were you satisfied with what the chairman had to say? And I know there's been people saying the word I've seen is it's total waffle. Most of it's just total waffle. And then there's the other school of thought where people have seen, it took him a bit of time, but I actually get what he's saying there. Where do you stand on it in relation to the steel stuff?
Yeah, I mean, the steel stuff's a bit of a strange one for me. I think if there was any, like, if we're any project, right, I'm not meaning to bore anyone, but there's risk involved in it, right? And it just seems a bit weird that there's a delay, and that's the whole timescale knackered, and we're out of Ibrox. It just seems a bit strange. Now, I feel sympathy for the club here a little bit. You know, it clearly is outside of their hands, okay, right? It's held up. I think he was talking about it being held up in Singapore or something like that. So there's not really much the club can do. So I do feel a bit of sympathy there, but ultimately the support put a lot of money into this club, and the kind of minimum they expect from a season ticket is to be sitting in it. Do you know what I mean? And to enjoy the games at Ibrox. The bit I didn't enjoy about his interview, because there was parts of it where I felt, okay, might be, I think the term waffling is probably right, but there was things where I thought, well, he can't really say anything else. You know, when he was talking about Philippe Clement and things, and there's a bigger rebuild, and the bit where he's talking about the player trading model and saying, you know, it's a bit of I think he's called it mythical. I mean, you're involved in that, John. Do you know what I mean? It's not like you get to just pass that on to someone else. So there's a few things I was just kind of like, I'm not sure about that. The bit I didn't really like was the kind of playing on the hearts things of the support, and it's very much like, you got to remember what we're doing this for. It's like the support are well aware of why we're doing this, and the support are behind the changes to the stadium. Of course they are. That doesn't mean that no one's allowed to complain about it and say, oh, well, things are delayed, but we're doing it. We're doing it for the disabled section, so everyone's just got to sit back and accept it. No, the support will put a lot of money into the club. They're allowed their say. They're allowed to vent their frustrations. And I think we've all seen for the last couple of years with Rangers, and John Bennett himself, because that's the first time we've heard from John Bennett in 2 years, the communication is poor, like really poor. I mean, you're looking at us going to Hampden. I think I seen it on social media last night that people were able to find out their seat, weren't they? But there's no official communication from the club on that. Yeah. Do you know, that's something the club really have to work on. I thought that's what James Bisgrove was really pushing for, you know, and he was coming up with these fan engagement you know, nights at Edmondson House. He's obviously got the fan advisory board now, which I've read the meeting notes on that. I'm not convinced that's going the way that the club wants to at this point. So there has been things that they've tried to do, but again, just these are big problems sitting there. You know, the steel's been delayed. Okay, we get it. We're not allowed back in. We get it. We're moving to Hampden, but it's just everything's just very. It takes a while for the fans to hear about these things. And I think what frustrates the support is the support we're hearing for maybe about a week that there was delays. If I'm the club, I just want to get ahead of that. I would just rather come out and communicate and say, look, you know, speculation, we're looking at this. There may be some issues, you know, we'll communicate in due course on that. It's just, I think that's a bit that frustrates me around it all. And yeah, kind of playing in the heartstrings. You got to remember what we're doing this for. The support aren't daft. We know what we're doing it for, and everyone's behind it. That's not fair. You can't play that card. You know, we want to just hear honest communication and how you're going to try and move us forward. Unfortunately, he didn't really have a lot of good news, did he? I think you could tell by the interview that John Bennett was frustrated about that. And I do believe that he probably has been having sleepless nights over these things, not being able to tell the support what's going on and all about the delays. But you know, that comes with the territory, doesn't it, in the role that he's in. And look, I think the interview could have been a bit better. And I think just for now, I think what the support will be able to get behind now going forward, if we just see a bit more communication. It doesn't have to be every week. It doesn't even have to be every month. Every quarter, maybe, you hear from someone in the club about what's going on, what they're trying to do moving forward, maybe some of the issues they're running into and how they're going to try and resolve it. That would help the support. But coming out every 2 years and really giving bad news and not really giving any answers doesn't really help us.
Yeah, I totally agree with it, with virtually everything that you were saying there. Maybe sometimes as the chairman of Rangers Football Club forget that being a chairman, you also have to deliver bad news at times as well as good news, and I think that it's just the length of time it took for this to come out. I mean, like I said, the rumours of the steel being delayed. But I mean, we all saw them weeks before the club even acknowledged that there was an issue here. So it's just I can understand at times, they don't want to say anything without being 100% factually accurate on it. But just it's not all. Running a football club isn't all roses all the time, and yeah, it just took a bit of time to come out and say that. But Ian, the next part of the interview that I want to talk about, and I felt he was very, very open about this, talking about the mythical player trading model, and he talked about this fee, this sort of 10.5 million spend that had already gone out the door even before any transfers had happened. What's your thoughts on A, that figure, and B, what do you actually think the purpose of him telling us this was? Was it to temper the expectations of the fans this year?
Very possibly. I mean, the whole thing felt a little bit pandering to me, to be honest. Obviously, I kept saying stuff like the people. He's obviously trying to play on that a little bit. I thought that was a bit poor. The 10.5 million thing. I mean, I'm no mathematician, but I can't work out where those numbers are coming from. It's as if he's included the Diomande deal from now, but the Cortez deal for next year. He said it was excluding the loan fees as well. It just felt like he was just plucking a number out to say, like, oh, look, we are buying players and this is happening. But you got to remember the fact that we're also selling players and we've made a bit of money here and there. So it didn't land well with me, the whole thing, to be honest. I mean, it was 22 minutes, and it ended, and I thought, is that it? Have I learned anything there? Is anything new been brought up other than the shipping dates that we've spoke about? And for me, there wasn't anything. I'm very cautious of ranting here, but I feel like the club has a lot of things that they just do very amateur at the moment, whether it is the media, whether it is the boardroom communications or communication in general, really, the emails you get. You look at things like the whole setup behind the scenes, whether it's the youth setup, the scouting setup, everything just is a little messy, a little amateur. And for a club of our size, with our fan base, our history, our stadium, it should be better at this point. I mean, you look at some of the clubs down south, obviously the money is a factor, but it just constantly feels like we're cheaping our way out of things a lot. I mean, I don't know the behind the scenes here of why shippings are coming from across the world. Maybe it is just a cost thing. But as Ross touched on, they obviously knew there was a problem very early on here. And see if they just came out early doors and said, look, we've ordered parts from across the world. They are delayed. We're apologising about this, but we'll do all we can to have it resolved by October, November. Might be some issues. See if they say this up front, you can at least then start to make peace with it a little early. You hear it from the club direct rather than through rumours and links and forums and tweets. And it's just, as I say, that links back to what he was saying. And other than the shipping dates that he gave, other than the 11.5 million figure he quoted, can anyone really remember anything else specifically that we found out? And I can't lie, I can't think of anything. It was just all a little bit staged and phony for me, which might sound harsh because I don't think Bennett's a bad guy. I do think he has the club's best interest at heart for the decisions he's making, and it's not just him sitting going, oh yeah, I'll order this part from Asia, I'll do this. It's a massive project for multiple people. Bisgrove was probably a lot of decision making as well. He's obviously now left, so that's a bit, you don't know what he's been landed with at his door kind of thing that was nothing to do with him. There could be many factors and issues like that going on, but yeah, it wasn't quite enough for me. I'd rather a bit more just genuine words and just real things that I can go, okay, I get it. Made a mistake, that's cool. Fix it next time, then we go on. But yeah, just as I said, a little bit amateur, two stages for me, and just nothing exciting or new to me.
Yeah, again, I think that reflects a lot of the way people are feeling in the comments. Steve G here says, Bennett buried his head in the sand for a month before someone mentioned that nothing was here for the stadium, now plays the victim. Robert Binney almost saying exactly what you said there. The Bennett interview was staged. Aldo, it's complete incompetence of the highest order, blaming a ship in the Indian Ocean. What about employing a proper contractor to do the work and take the risk? Absolutely. That's the thing for me. no contingency plan was built into this, which in the I mean, I'm no expert in the construction industry, but I've just had a new piece of equipment installed at my work, and it took about a year to get it done, and everything for 4 different, bodies to talk to each other and agree that this was the week that they were doing it on. And Paul here says, just to balance it, some fans are never happy, which could actually be written under our club badge as our motto. But listen, let's try and shift on to a bit of positivity now. The football's back at the weekend. This is why I was so excited coming on the pod. Whether or not that's a good thing, whether or not it's a bad thing, we'll find out. Ross, simple question. Do you feel Rangers are ready for the weekend?
No.
Right. That's the end of the pod. Right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
No, they're definitely not ready for the weekend. But what we're going to do about it, you're just hoping that Flip Clement and his players show up and deliver. And there has been moments throughout the last couple of years where there hasn't been an expectancy on this team, and they do show up. So it honestly would not surprise me if Rangers go to Tynecastle, they win like 2 or 3-0. It wouldn't shock me. But do we have the squad ready for August, the amount of fixtures we have coming up? No, definitely not. And I don't like saying this, of course, but I do think we will slip up at least 1 or 2 times in August. And I think it's just trying to ensure that is not enough to completely derail us for the season. Again, we've got the rest of the transfer window in August, so I'm hoping that players can come in throughout these fixtures and give us a little bit of a boost, and we have a squad ready at the end of August that we really believe can go on and win trophies and have a good run in Europe. But as it stands, no, I don't think we're ready. I think I would be sitting here in this podcast lying about it. I mean, you could go through the whole team. We've already spoken about the defence. Midfield, who really don't have the depth right now, do we? Because Rascan's out injured. So you're really looking at Barron, Diamondi, because I don't think anyone else is really ready to step up in there, are they? Kieran Dill's not really been available. Cole McKinnon, unfortunately, I don't think he's good enough. So again, you're struggling in that area. Then you look at the wide areas. Cortez, obviously, fantastic to have him back. But he's not absolutely willing to go, is he? Because he's been managed through pre-season. You look at the right-hand side, Czerny, I would love him to play at the weekend. I'm sure we'll come on to that. But is he fit and ready to go? Is it going to be a McCausland? Is it going to be a Wright? I don't know. And then I think I'm going to try and stay away from this podcast, but Cyril Dessers up front. I mean, the fact we're starting a season with Cyril Dessers up front, it's just, I'm finding it really, really difficult to find positivity going into this fixture. And it sounds really harsh, but he is a big part of that, because I just don't think he's good enough to lead a Rangers team to a title. I just don't. As simple as that. You could go in depth about how many goals he scored last season, and maybe we've been harsh on him at times, and okay, maybe there's a bit of truth to it, but ultimately, do we as a support sit here and look at a Cyril Dessers and think he's going to win us a title? No, we don't. And if someone in the comments can come back and say that to me, then fair play. But that is a big reason why I'm feeling a wee bit down. But look, I think we're all the same as a support, aren't we? See, when it comes to an hour before kickoff on Saturday, I will be raring to go. I'll believe that we're going to batter Hearts 5-0. Right, that's just the way it is, being a fan. But as I'm sitting here right now, and I maybe don't have the blue tinted specs on as much as I will on Saturday, I'm finding it difficult to find the positivity.
There we go. And all the viewers out there will be buzzing that you've upgraded your camera to HD so that they can see that vein popping in your head when you're talking about Cyril Dessers there, Ross. But yeah, it is crazy. I mean, even if you just said, are we ready? No, because we have Dessers starting up front for us, which is madness for a guy that scored us, the 20 plus goals last season. But he's just, whatever it is that you need to have to be a successful Rangers player, as nice as he is, I just don't think he has it. But I'm not going to spend any more time talking about Dessers. Iain, let's talk about the right hand side in defence. Who will start, and what will that tell you for the rest of the season?
I was one of the people, I think most of us were, to be honest, who was quite keen on Tav to leave. Again, nothing against the guy and the services he gave us, but I don't think he's the same player he was this time last year, let alone 2, 3, 4 years ago when he was in his peak. that's probably as much a worry for me as the Dessers situation, because as Ross said right at the start, Sterling has his injury issues, and this is kind of case in point here. We've not seen Sterling these last two friendlies. We've not seen him since the Man United game, 11, 12 days ago. So there must be a reason he's not playing, whether he's just been rested for this. I would take a big boost at seeing Sterling as our starting right back, more so because I think it's the case of he should be the starting right back, and Tav, if he is still sticking around, which does kind of look to be at this point, should be the backup to Sterling going forward. So my fear here is that Tav starts. I think we've seen him pre-season. He's not the same player. His head's obviously either been turned or he's just not quite in it as much. He's made a good few mistakes at this point. And it's just every time an attack comes down that left-hand side, I'm going to be hiding behind the couch kind of thing, because I just know the inevitable's going to happen at some point. He's going to cost a goal kind of thing. It's really sad that a player that I love to have, don't get me wrong, I think he's been incredible for us, and the moments he's gave us as a fan base, pretty unrivaled, especially for a guy who cost so little way back then. But it will start to kind of tarnish that reputation a little bit if this kind of thing carries on. So I need Sterling right back, and I just don't think we're going to have a season of that. So it's my big problem point at this point.
Yeah, I think there's lots of comments coming in here about who should be starting at right back. Lots of people, some people saying Sterling, some people saying that it will be Tav due to the injury that Sterling has. But if it's for me, if Sterling's fit, he has to start. He has to be our first choice right back going into the season. Ross, let's stick on that right hand side as well. You sort of touched on him there. Is our new signing on loan from Wolfsburg, and that is Vaclav Černý. How excited are you to see this guy play in action for Rangers, and especially with Danilo on the pitch? Because a team that we've already talked about a million times, they had a really good relationship at FC Twente with each other a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think with all the footage we've seen on him and all the scout reports we've read, he looks like a real threat off that right-hand side, and the ability to go both ways, which is something that's really, really important, I think, for a winger these days, because it's the kind of modern way now, isn't it, where it's inverted wingers and they always want to come in on the inside. But I think sometimes in Scottish football, we've seen the detriment of that, because players just want to come into a crowded area. So the fact that he can go both ways is really good. Overall, I'm really excited about Černý. I think he'll be a good signing, and I'm not really too bothered whether it's a loan without an obligation. I just want good players to play for Rangers this season. I don't think we're at that stage where it can be desperate and be like, oh, everyone we sign's got to be permanent, whatever. He's better than what we've got, so let's go with it. I actually think I mentioned it in my previous answer about Vaclav Černý in terms of maybe the fitness concerns, right? Because we don't actually know what stage he's in, right? But I think if he's even 70-80%, I think you play him, because I think the boost you get from that is huge, because I think the support also get excitement behind it. Look, here we go. Here's a new signing on that right-hand side. And I think it gives the team a bit of a boost as well. It's a new player. There's just a bit of a freshness again going into this game. So I would like to see him start this one, whether he does or not. I'm not sure. I think we all know with Philippe Clement now, he takes time to bed players in. You see Mohamed Diamande in January, he took time to bed him in. He might do the same with Černý, especially if there's fitness concerns. But this is one I'd like to see start, because I think if you have a left-hand side of Cortez, a right-hand side of Černý, and the way Lawrence looked in the last game there at pre-season, that's a threat. It is. And that's what I want us to be going to Tynecastle. I don't really want it to be a tentative game. I think the way we are at the moment, I think we've just got to go for it and hope that we can outscore Hearts on Saturday. I think that's the way it's got to be. And I think Černý gives you a really good chance of doing that.
Here we go. CGM55 here says, with our record new players, Černý won't start till Christmas, which his loan might be done by the time we're ready to play him. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm totally with you. Even just from a balance perspective, and the fact that I cannot take Scott Wright starting at right wing in the open day, the 24-25 season, it will drive me crazy. Listen, before we wrap up, you know I always like doing this in the Wednesday podcast. Ian, I'm going to ask for not a predicted. Who would you like to see starting for Rangers at the weekend?
Okay, that's very, very different from my predicted lineup. So
that's why I asked that.
This will make me happy. Good. Okay. So Butland, of course, in goal. My back four. Kind of silly here, it's not confirmed the signing, but I'm having Pröpper in there beside Suter. Sterling right, Ridvan left. I think it's a kind of obvious midfield three. Lawrence at the top of Diomande and Barron. I do think Wright will play, but I would, of course, have Czerny on the right, Cortez left, and I would put Danilo through the middle. That, I think, on paper, is our best 11. I touched on this the other night on the pod. I think that team is a team we would all get behind and we'd all be quite excited to watch. We expect good football. It's a young team who I think have pace, power, ability, ticks every box you kind of want. Obviously, the worry is the fact that probably 3 or 4 of those are injury doubts already, and we've not even started the season yet. So that's fun. But that's the team I would go for, and just kind of see how it gets on for that first hour, see how guys like Danilo, Czerny, Sterling can last. If it is just an hour they play, I'd rather they played the first hour or first 70 minutes kind of thing, win the game, then take them off. That'd be the attacking approach I'd be going for.
Yeah, that's the exact same team that I've got written down here. Hugo Bear here says need to start with Pröpper and Czerny. Paul, who put this up even before I'd asked the question, said Butland, Sterling, Suter, Pröpper, Ridvan, Barron, Diomande, Lawrence, Cortez, Czerny, Dessers, maybe for Saturday. Ross, are you thinking too similar to that in terms of the lineup you'd like to see at Tynecastle at the weekend?
Yeah, I'll make this easy for you. It's likely the same team I would select. I don't think that's going to be the team. I really don't. But it's very close to it. I think maybe I would have a Suter and Davis for this one just because it is a tough game away at Tynecastle and these two players have played together for quite a bit in pre-season. And that's maybe the only change I would make. But if there was no fitness issues involved and everyone was available and ready to go, that is likely to be the same 11 I would pick. But unfortunately, I think it will be very different from that. In fact, I'll say it right now. I can absolutely guarantee Cyril Dessers will start up front. We all know that. And I actually think James Tavernier will start this game. I'm pretty convinced of it. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one when it comes Saturday.
Well, there we go. RSC72 here says, everyone excited about Saturday till we see Dessers, Wright and Lawrence and Tav all starting. Nathan Bell here says, Tav, Suter, Pröpper, Yilmaz, Dio, Barron, Lawrence, Cortez, Dessers and Czerny. And the last one, Ali Quinn here says, very hard to predict a Clement team as he always surprises you, but I'm going to do it every Wednesday from now until the end of the season anyway, because I love doing it. And I was a couple more coming here. Steve G says, Butland, Tav, Suter, Davis, Ridvan, Barron, Diomande, Wright, Dessers, Lawrence and Cortez. So everybody's picking a very, very, very similar team. Right, I think that just about wraps it up. The one thing I'll say before we go, I have just seen that the Partizan Dynamo Kiev game finished 3-0 to Dynamo Kiev. So they scored 9 goals in qualifying. Perfect after we've just ripped the defence apart on the podcast here, saying that we're not convinced by it. But listen, I just want to say thank you to both of my guests tonight. So thank you, Ross. Thank you, Ian. Before we get into the spiel at the end, I just want to finish it on a positive note. I saw this comment coming in here from Derek Neves, and it says, I feel weirdly optimistic about the players delivering and wanting to prove a point that they're not as rubbish as we all think. And I'm fully on board with that as well. So listen, if you've not done so already, just remember, drop us a wee like, drop us a wee comment, tell all your pals about us. We will be back on Saturday. It will be Craig and myself with a post-match reaction to that lineup and to the Hearts game. But thanks everybody for tuning in. Take care, and we'll see you all again soon.